pretty good today, Carter. Drum is really tight. Tight. Yeah.
The humidity is at an even pace. It's not very humid here today somehow.
So everybody, welcome to the Z Lord podcast. This is teZa, and that's Carter.
And I have the talking stick.
Oh yes, the talking stick. We always have a stick, which we picked up camping years ago
stick.
Because one of us, I can't say which, really tends to talk on a bit too much.
teZa thinks I tend to drone on.
So he's holding.
She's not the first person that's made that comment, I will say.
He's holding the stick. And so what would you like to say, Carter?
Well, I'm standing by for the subject of today's podcast.
Well, you've
got what it is.
Okay, I'm taking the stick.
All right.
I've got the stick. I'm going to beat you with it. We have a lot of fun, folks. So, stick or no stick, we've decided that we have a prayer, spiritual, mystical, Christian, universal oneness consciousness group that we get together with under the auspices of the Edgar Cayce group. We're students of Edgar Cayce's work. And so each week we have an exercise. And so the topic that we're going to be talking about today in our little Z Lord podcast episode is what the topic is for this week, to be aware of our desires and to check ourselves with self-reflection, with some kind of understanding that not all desires are aligned with, higher power, our inner self. Sometimes these desires just come out of wanting to have something that's kind of not good for us or goes against our wishes if we're looking at our best way of operating. So I'm trying to say ego is not always the way to go with our decisions.
And desires emanate from the physical, like the sexual desires or jealous desires or putting ourselves ahead of other people's desires.
Or thinking that somebody knows the way things should be and not accepting other people's being tolerant of others. Yeah, that's a desire also.
And the exercise is to make sure that they're aligned with the higher consciousness so that
no, wait.
You can make them good.
No, our own. Yeah, you're saying our desires. When you say they, I always thought you were talking
about
people.
Our desires can be aligned with what's good for other people, not ourselves. As long as we're thinking about others and as long as we're pushing other people ahead of ourselves in a healthy way, then it will spiritualize that stuff, and the desires then can become a positive influence on life as opposed to some sort of lower level thing that just makes life worse for everyone.
Well, let's give some examples, okay? I'll start. I was just thinking about yesterday I drove somebody very early in the morning, like pre-dawn, to the airport. We live in a place that's over an hour away from a major airport. And I had offered to drive this person because I knew this person didn't have much money. And it's not like this person was a dear friend. I just felt like, wow, isn't it nice to do something for somebody who doesn't have much money? $100 for an Uber, or more like 150 in today's world, is a lot of money for somebody who, she doesn't have a car, she's older, she's handicapped, blah, blah, blah. So I offered to drive. She didn't even ask me, and she was kind of blown away. And that was a spiritual desire. It didn't have anything to do with my life, really, because I'm busy. I'm in the middle of a million projects always, and I don't have like an extra 3 hours to give. But I decided that was something that I really wanted to do. Instead of writing a check to charity, for instance, you can help somebody. I decided to help somebody.
Yeah, but my thinking is that she manifested that in the world because she's such a beautiful, kind person. This woman is just so off the charts on loving people. And so she naturally attracted you just by her kindness to want to reach out and pay her back. Whereas if she had been a selfish person, you would have been much less inclined to want to do that, even though maybe you would have done it anyway. But you were certainly encouraged to pay back some for her, because she's just been so wonderful to other people, and we've witnessed that.
So how about you giving an example, Carter? How would you spiritualize a desire, a wish, or even like a goal, instead of just thinking of it as being something that your ego, your personality needs to fulfill? How do you conceive of right here?
Well, it's always about choosing over selfishness and or in something that'll benefit you. Like we all have these things where we want to, we want to push ourselves forward and be, I guess you'd say,
important.
Well, yeah, or anything that would have to do with putting ourselves in front of other people, and an example, for instance, might be as simple as walking into a 7-Eleven in front of somebody who's behind you, and unthinkingly, instead of stopping and opening the door and letting somebody else go in. If you ever do something like that, if you ever open the door for someone, you immediately see them brighten, immediately, and they smile, and they're thankful, and they thank you every single time, and especially to women, but to guys too, in my case. Yeah. Anytime you extend a courtesy to someone, it makes the world a better place. Whereas how often have you seen some guy grab the door and throw it open and walk in front of other people, and you just immediately are brought down by that kind of simple, everyday behavior? Yeah,
living in the South, I was raised in the North, but I particularly go out of my way when I'm approaching a store, and I always open the door for Black people. I just think that it's time for us to bend over backwards, to really reach out to the Black community that has suffered a lot here in the South. So that's one way that I am very consciously, it's not just good behavior, but it's making conscious choices of contributing goodness and helping the balance of misdeeds get righted. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that in the North, and I wouldn't do it necessarily for, just somebody who might be identified as a new immigrant, but I just feel, because I remember coming down here as a kid, and, I saw the water fountains that said, Black people over there and white people, and I remember as a kid, I was in visiting my grandmother, and I took a bus, and the Black people had to sit in the back. And I was sitting in the front with my mom, but the people in the back were having a really good time. And I just kept looking, behind me. I wanted to be with them. And my grandmother, reamed me out big time. She used a nasty word and said, you just turn around. I mean, there was a real line drawn in our society. So I kind of go out of my way to, I guess it's a karmic thing, to make it right inside my own soul. I'm not out there carrying the banner.
Good that you're doing that.
But there's so many ways that we can spiritualize not just our choices about what we're doing with our wishes, our desires, but to spiritualize our life, because that's what we're doing, is we're spiritualizing our life.
And a desire, a good example of a desire would be, what can you do in your own life to make yourself feel better? So that's a big thing. Feeling better during the day is a big deal, because how much of the day do we spend feeling crappy? And usually it's a function of remembering something that somebody did to you, or not thinking that you're less than, or that you have something that you're not going to get done well, or that the future might bring a problem. And it's always about ourself. And if we can, invariably, if I extend something for somebody else instead of about me, I feel better about it immediately. So I'm benefiting myself.
Well, you're really good about that, Carter. That's one thing with living with a mate, a partner who's always reaching out and helping other people. I mean, you rarely say no. It's a hard thing for you. Like this morning, you had to basically say no to somebody because it was a family situation, and the family is when you have members of a family, everybody has to be in agreement when you get involved in something, and so this particular person needed the help of the family, but our family said we just can't afford emotionally and all sorts of other ways to get involved, and you had to deliver that message. And I know that was difficult for you because your natural tendency is to always bend over backwards to help everybody. But you're also helping the family by, taking time.
Yeah, and you have to
and making decisions based upon what the family's wants and desires and needs are rather than your own. Because our own, you and me together, we would have just rushed in and helped this person. But the family is like, we have to consider the consensus, the will of all other people in there.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the word for this lesson is desire, because when you think about desire, it's usually some sort of very personal. I mean, that's a personal.
I desire
thing.
chocolate. I desire sex. I desire a red car.
There's a lot of desires, and the concept of the fact that it emanates and it begins in the physical, but it's an opportunity for us to raise it up to a higher level so that we bring that desire, that wish to a level where it's going to do good for a lot of other people, and therefore it changes it from being a potential stumbling block to a step up. I mean, that's an interesting thing to be thinking about because it's not intuitively obvious.
Well, I've been thinking about this ever since we've had this assignment, which is a few days now. A desire actually is a thought. I mean, it could be the same thing as saying you have to watch your thoughts. You have to really scrutinize that a thought that just pops up in your mind is for the highest good, not just for yourself, but for others around you. And a desire could be one way of saying, okay, it's about something that you wish for, but what is an idea? What is a thought? A thought is something that pops up, and it's not just there like to bother you so much. It's something that you're wishing for, you want, right?
Yeah.
Any idea. An idea could, even if, you're always talking about like somebody from your past bothering you. If an idea pops up into your mind about somebody who wronged you 30 years ago or 30 days ago, that's some kind of a desire to get even, probably. To have revenge or to bring it up again.
Desire to assuage your bad feeling and
to make it better, why does it keep popping
up? We all have
up?
those things.
Those things keep popping up because they haven't been resolved. They haven't been placed in that part of our brain that sets things to rest. And I discovered this by doing the rapid eye desensitization therapy, because I had this was about 25 years ago. I had some kind of recurring episodes of real terror, fear, and I just couldn't figure out what the heck. I mean, if you're saying that's a desire, the desire is like I wanted to get rid of it. I wanted to get rid of this paralyzing fear that I had. So after contemplating that I had no power to get rid of it, I asked for advice, and I was given advice. And I did what I had to do in order to make that idea that kept popping up in my mind, that desire to wipe out the fear, I had to take some action. I had to first ask for advice, and secondly, I had to do what was recommended, like step 1, step 2, step 3. And that's a desire to rid myself of a recurring kind of obsession, right?
Yeah, and almost always in those situations, and I find that selfishness is a very big thing. And so if we can get a handle on selfishness as opposed to doing something for somebody else, almost always and invariably, if we change over so that we can still take care of something that we need in our own selfish way, but not in a way that puts us over someone else. If we can think about it and do things in a way that's going to include something good for somebody else, or that's going to include a bigger part of it, and it's not just about our own pushing ourselves forward on top of someone else.
Yeah.
That's always the choice. And
That's
for
the
me,
exercise.
it's amazing how prevalent and how all-reaching that thing is, that selfish thing is. And you see it right away from the 2-year-old kids. It's clearly a lesson that human beings have to learn in this life, because we're born with that selfishness, and you see it with kids grabbing toys and pushing people around, and it starts right then. And the parents, right off the bat, within the first year, have to start training their kids to quit being selfish.
I can give a really good example of that. We were just visiting our new little grandson, whose name is Archer, and he's going to be 2 in December, and so we hadn't seen him for a few months, and we're still kind of new to him. You know, it's not like we're close. We see him as much as we can, but they live hours away, and we had been gone. And so the mom and dad, who's our son and daughter-in-law, they were really at the stage where they're teaching him about this. And so at one point, he had 2 pieces of little tiny pieces of chocolate. And boy, he wanted them both. And the mom, Katie, said, now we're going to share with teZa. That's my name. And so he comes over, and he's got these 2 pieces of chocolate in his little hand. And he's got them open, and his mama is saying, now share. And he's looking at the 2 pieces, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at the 2 pieces, and he's looking at me. And like, it took a long time for him to get it in his mind that, I am okay about giving this 1 piece to teZa. And he finally did it, but it was not easy. It really took a lot of coaching and a lot of... his little brain was going, but wait a minute, there's 2, and
I think he got it because of his big smile. When he gave it to you, he felt better. So, I mean, like instinctively, right off the bat, she's teaching him the value of feeling better when you share. And you know,
it was so cute, though, wasn't it?
You could see him big smile on his face when he gave it. And this is the lesson for us all, that when we extend ourselves for others, we feel better, and the world gets better.
We do.
And everybody benefits. Everywhere you go, people benefit from that. So
there's
thousands that's a big deal.
There's thousands of examples of how to do it, and we could go on.
But you wouldn't necessarily think...
Wait, don't interrupt me. I got the stick. I'm going to beat you.
Let me take it here, but you wouldn't necessarily...
Wait, let me finish my thought.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying this selfishly. I'm just saying that it really is a crucial subject about spiritualizing a desire, because it absolutely affects everything. It is the basis of every action we take. It's not just okay, I'm going to do some spiritual work today, and I'm going to be more mindful, or I'm going to take this hallucinogenic plant and go out and find oneness. It's not something big. It's something so tiny that it affects every single little action that we take.
Yeah.
You know, including like you just let me finish my thought. Recently, we did a huge letting go of a lot of possessions, those of you who follow our podcast, we did this last year. And our house is so much brighter and lighter. And the energy has changed because we don't have to have all this stuff. And as I go to other people's houses after we've done this, I notice that feeling of clutter and muchness and possessions and material, like weight, where people just cling to their stuff. I've really been noticing that. And it's such a freeing thing to let go of stuff and realize that we don't have to have all this stuff to make it so that we identify with who we are. We can just be who we are with our heart and our soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
now you may
part of
talk.
life.
Thank you for letting me get that
I've
out.
forgotten what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. I've got some more to say about this. Until another thought comes, give me back the stick. So I'm just about ready to start my next book. And it's already written, but the final stage is always the hardest and the most difficult, which is the final editing. And I've been thinking a lot about, I don't want this book, which is autobiographical, as all my books are, but I want it to be about this universe, about this interconnected experience of life. So yes, of course, there's a lot of things that come up in a book where it seems like, wow, this is all just about like one character or one person or the author or whatever. But we can, me as a writer, as an artist, I can have the intention right from the very beginning to make it so that it's more interconnected with the bigger picture, to bring the bigger picture in to what's happening to one individual. And that's my vision. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm praying about. That's what I'm, like hoping will come out in the way I use words and the way I use images. And it's very important to me as a person who likes to create to bring in the bigger picture instead of just satisfying my own desires. That's what I really wanted to say. And you as a videographer, filmmaker, you probably have similar feelings like that too, don't you? When you create something, that you're bringing something more than just personal satisfaction in, or
Sure. Well, you want to have some sort of something worth saying. You want to say something that's worth saying, and anything that's worth saying, it always includes others and is beyond yourself. So, but still, we interpret the world through our own personal stuff, and there's obviously the greatest value is relating it to your own personal stuff, but in a bigger way, so that it benefits not just me, but everybody. But it's interesting that desire is the word that's used for this chapter, because it's not obvious necessarily. I guess I said this before that.
well, what other word could there be? I mean, a desire is something that comes from within.
Well, everything in this book that we use to study is about getting closer to God,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just another way. It's another way to remember, to bring up, and it manifests. Everything manifests to us humans in the physical, and the thing that Casey always says is that the mind is the how we think is what makes it happen, and but that it manifests itself. How we think manifests itself in the physical. So what we become is what we think.
Well, that's why I think that really the word desire in this instance could be synonymous with thought.
Yeah.
Like if we are really watching our thoughts, it's the same thing as watching our desires. I mean, what thought could come up that isn't a desire of some sort? I mean, every thought that arises is some kind of manifestation of a desire.
Yeah, and if we're spiritual beings living in a physical body, that's what we are. and I think it's real easy to forget that. And that brings me to one thing that's happened very interesting in the last few days. I wanted to mention this. We have a really good friend of ours who's a fantastic, wonderful person, and she came within 30 seconds of dying and being permanently injured through brain problems from lack of oxygen, and she escaped this. And she's our age, she's my age, she's 79 years old, and she's been living in a wheelchair for 15 years or something, or maybe
30.
25.
30 years.
And so her body, when you live in a wheelchair, it's hard to keep all your insides lubricated and moving around very well because you're limited in your movement. So every once in a while you get obstructions and you have to go in. And so she got in, she went in, had some instructions, and then it got away from the doctors. And she got septic, and they thought she was going to die. They told her kids. They said, well, this is probably the end. You should come in and be around because she may be out of here tonight. And they said, oh, my God, what are we going to do? They said, well, there's nothing any of us can do now. We've given her what we can give her, and she's going to declare herself. That's the word he used. They said, what do you mean she's going to declare? Well, she's either going to wake up or she's not, because she was in some kind of a little coma that they'd put her in with a tube and all.
Intubation,
and she wrote us. She was writing us about this. We got this text from her because I'd written it, how you doing, because I knew she was in there. And she wrote back and said, well, they told my son that I was going to declare myself and that I was either going to wake up or not. And she said, I woke up. And there they all were, and I think a lot of it has to do with the prayers that people have been praying for me, and I'm feeling okay, and I'm back home, and and here I am. And she was laughing, or not laughing necessarily, but I mean she was totally coherent
upbeat.
Very upbeat, and very thankful to be alive, and thankful about things as she always is. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, how unbelievable! For us as humans, death is a big deal, and dying is a big thing. And really, it's not, but it is for us, for all of us. And so when you approach death and approach making the transition and moving over, that's like a huge thing. Life-altering, I guess you could even say.
Right. Ultimately.
But it's amazing how close it is, and it's amazing how right here she is. And it was just like my sister 3 months ago stopped breathing, and her husband happened to be right there and got that hospital. They came in 6 minutes. They saved her, and she went from another 1 minute death to bouncing back, and now she's up and around she's working. She's 85. She's out there working, and it's just amazing. And how many of us all of us are involved in death and dying constantly every day. All of us, with our friends and our family,
without thinking about
and
it.
Our parents and our kids, and all these people that have these death experiences where somebody actually dies. And Cheryl could have actually died. We could be bemoaning her right now. But instead, here she is, just as normal and chipper and as the day is long. And it's just amazing how this death thing is hovering around us. And
life is fragile.
And yet it's everything and it's nothing at the same time. So it's pretty amazing that... and she's thankful that, and she's constantly practicing bringing stuff up and trying to get out of the mundane and get out of the physical and get up into another place where she's closer to God because she's feeling this time coming.
So what I hear you saying, Carter, is I'm taking the stick. Every thought counts.
Yes.
Every thought counts.
That's right. Every instant.
Every idea that pops up.
We're all in the moment.
Call it a desire, call it a conscious blip, or call it a thought. Every single thought should be scrutinized that it's of the highest, because it may be your last thought, right?
Yeah.
And what a waste it would be to reach out and realize that, wow, this is my last moment and I'm going to have this crap in my mind.
Well, she feels pretty good.
I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about how I had to work so hard to get the negative, fearful, like paralyzing fear that I had at one point. And I did the work and I got free. And I am now okay. I mean, I've trained my mind to relax. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And how's your mind?
Well, it's up and down. It changes, it comes and goes. And the more I'm aware and the more that I try to recognize when I'm not feeling so good and figuring, well, why is this happening, and trying to change it and bring it up, the better my life is, and the better everybody else's life is too, because then I'm not walking around with a cloud bringing everybody down. And if I can be up and upbeat, then I'm bringing that as a gift to everybody else, and you can actually see it in people's faces if you compliment or do something nice or open the door for someone. You make a difference in the planet, in the world, in everything. So it's in my hands to choose how I want to see the day, and what I want to do with the desires that come in my consciousness.
And so what we're
I want to do with them.
What we're saying is it takes more effort to have self-reflection, to really watch our thoughts. It takes more effort, but it's really worth it. The benefits are just sublime.
And we feel better.
And we can get rid of negative thinking by just, recognizing that it's there, underlying stuff, if we happen to have that. Some of us do, some of us don't. And wherever we are, to be mindful, to be conscious of every single thought as it arises, and not to go around being neurotic about it, but just not to have this blasé feeling like, oh, well, it's just life. I mean, who cares about all this stuff going on in my mind? We can be responsible.
Yeah.
And who's to say that we could end up, in the emergency room, like in the next hour, and
That's right.
and be dangling on to life.
And if we're feeling crappy, we can choose to quit feeling crappy, because we can choose to think in a different way that will make us a better channel of blessing to others and a light to the world. And we're one instant away from being extinguished. And so
we can choose. To
it's
change,
in our power to choose.
Change from negative
to choose
to
from.
positive.
So if I'm feeling shitty, it's an opportunity for me to think about why and what is it that I'm thinking about that's making me feel crappy, and how can I change it and bring it up and do something for somebody else that will make everybody feel better, including myself. Even though even though we may be in a serious and dire situation. I'm not saying we don't have problems. We do. We all have these problems, and we have to figure out what we're going to do to alleviate them. But we just have the choice to think about it in a way that will be good and positive and bring things up.
And for the good of the global family, rather than just what we think is right. I mean, to bring in, just like I was talking about how we had to look at our family and have a no in there, because it wasn't for the betterment of the family, the choice that we instinctively wanted to make, you and me, by getting involved with something that the rest of the family, we're talking about 35 other people, they chose not to be involved in. So sometimes it is about not following what we think is the best, but looking at the bigger picture, even if it's a global thing. Okay?
Okay.
So we love you, and if anybody hasn't told you most recently, like today, this moment, I love you. Carter always laughs. Why do you laugh? I do. I love every single one of you.
Way to go, Tez. All right,
Om
good.
Namah Shivaya.
God bless you guys. Have a great time. Have a
Until
good day.
next time.